Folks, we weren't even going to talk about it, but we've been having some lag issues on our recording software. We have tried basically everything. I promise we recognize it and we're trying to fix it. And I apologize if it has turned you off of some of the episodes. I don't know what's going on. We have like a whole team trying to figure it out, and we're switching softwares. It's a whole thing.
We thought for a second, I mean, it's definitely still my Wi-Fi over here that's hurting the issue, but I got like a whole new laptop to fix one problem, and now Allison's back in town, so now we're both using the Wi-Fi. It's so obnoxious. So I think this might be the last time that I record in the troll hole, and we're officially just gonna get out of here because it's just not helpful. It's just not like,
we're gonna hit the streets,
abort mission, hit the red button. So everyone,
it's gotten out of hand.
I hope you enjoyed the troll hole.
We did.
Okay. I mean, I am currently a little resentful of her, but other than that, I just want everyone to enjoy our fucking show. And if the troll hole is making things worse, then we gotta say sayonara. So
I know it's too bad, but we're trying our best. We are just, it feels like day one of this podcast all over again. Like, how does technology, how does it not do what we need it to do? You know what I mean? It's like all our tools, they're all at our disposal, and somehow we still can't figure our shit out. So it feels like we haven't evolved all that much since 2017. Oops.
Yeah, now that I've got a place to be or somewhere else to go, hopefully this is the last time you deal with this. Or this time you shouldn't have to deal with it, but sorry, and for the past few episodes, we know it's been a mess. So,
and if you're listening
yikes.
Backwards, we've probably fixed it. So don't skip them. You can still listen to them. Actually, don't listen backwards. That just drives me crazy. But you do you. Anyway, I'm sorry. Hi. I've missed you. I'm so glad we're both here. How are you? Issues aside, tech issues aside, why do you drink?
Well, tech issues aside, okay.
Oh, you don't have to put them aside. If you want to keep discussing them, that's fine too.
I mean, it's still very frustrating, but let me think of another reason that I'm sad is because this is now officially probably the last time people will see the troll hole.
It's like totally not going to be. We're going to forget because we record. You realize tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I'm just. I guess I'm overwhelmed with the thought of moving. I'm realizing that I'm not. Not realizing, but it's hitting me even harder that I'm not ready to move. I feel like I'm being forced out of my home, all that kind of stuff.
What?
Yeah, I felt that.
All of that kind of stuff? What do you mean?
Well, because if it weren't for the roaches, we wouldn't be leaving. So I feel like I never, I never
defeated you.
Yeah, I really. Even when we moved in, I told Allison, I was like, "This is my forever home." As long as I live in LA, I love living here. Other than the roaches, this is the perfect setup. It's in the perfect location. We have just enough room for ourselves. We're kind of starting to outgrow it, but the irony is we found a smaller place, so that doesn't mean anything. But other than if it weren't for the roaches, I love living here. I feel super safe. I just don't really want to leave, and there's this really gross, obvious reason why we have to. So. I just don't like the idea of having to uproot. I am very much a creature of habit, and I hate change. So,
that's always something that strikes me is a lot of people I know and am friends with hate change, and I'm the opposite. I'm like, change it up. I'm like already ready. We moved in here, and I was like, when should we move next? And Blaze was like, never. And I was like, well, let's keep the door open. I don't know. I'm just one of those people. I hate things to stay stagnant. So I'm very let's change shit up all the time, which I feel like is very Gemini, but most of the Geminis I know don't feel that way. So I don't know.
My mom did a very, very good job of making me love the stability of growing up and living in one home. Her house is still the same one I've lived in since I was 3. So I think to me, even if I'm all over the place and I'm very chaotic in certain ways, home never changes. And so home is where you're never supposed to have to worry about uprooting. And so since I moved here and when I first moved in here, we didn't have anything. Now I've bought quite a lot of things. Now I'm thinking about all the things I have to literally bring with me, and that overwhelms me. It's just a lot of little stuff.
Well, yeah. All. And I feel like for me, I moved back home to Cincinnati because I was like, I just know I can't, I knew I was going to come back here eventually, you know? So like maybe that's my like even though I would switch houses, maybe I would not like I don't think I'm going to leave my hometown. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I don't know, maybe in a way that's my stickler, but
Anyway, that's why I'm just overwhelmed at all the stuff we have to do before we move in, and things are not going to be livable, or I guess they'll be technically livable while we move in, but it's just going to be for the rest of the year. It's just going to be a big headache of getting things done.
At least you have time though. Like you don't have like a week to do it or like a weekend to do it.
Yeah. You know what freaks me out the most though, which is like it's because I've only ever lived in apartments after leaving my house, is that I'm going to be like on a ground floor without neighbors, and like it feels less safe, which is wild because you could see it the other way of like
not like neighbors attached to you.
Yeah, mean? Like right now the only safety precaution I have to take is making sure that like our front door is locked, and that's it. But like now I'm going to have all 4 walls I'm responsible for, and like I just get really freaked out.
I get that, but like that's what an alarm is for. Just saying, you should definitely put that in before you move.
We are. I just it's just still freaky that like I'll like there could be a sound from any corner, and I have to make sure I know what it is. That's all. So anyway, just little things like that where it's becoming real, and I am going through the panic phase of it. So
well, you seem very calm, so you know, for what it's worth.
I'm screaming inside.
Oh.
Why do you drink this week?
Oh, I'm just drowning, but it's fine. I'll live.
Is it a schedule thing?
Yeah, it's a schedule. It's a work. It's a why did I do this to myself? How do I
Isn't that fun?
function? No, it's not. It's terrible, and my hives or my eczema is out of control, and they're thinking it might be psoriasis from my Crohn's. That's like
oh shit,
not good. Anyway, it's fine. I just woke up and I was like, I just had like a rash like all up my neck, in my scalp. It's my ears that were bleeding. Like it's just getting out of control.
Is it just from stress that's causing a flare?
I think
or
it's
something?
stress. Yeah, I think it's stress.
What do you have? It's the Beach to Sandy tour and the And That's Where You Drink tour and
it's
having
all
a baby.
Touring. It's the baby. It's like trying to juggle like every recording and then making sure we catch up and stay caught up and making sure the house is I don't know. And then you and I've been trying to get our tour ready for the fall, and so there's all this, and we keep hitting roadblocks, and it's just sort of like
people don't
chaotic.
Appreciate the behind the scenes work of a podcast. I feel like a lot of people think, and the fact that you do 2 of them, again, there's a reason I don't do 2 of them. It's
really a wild choice that I made. Yeah.
You know what? If anyone can do it, you can do it. But I don't think a lot of people realize it. Like, I think like my grandma probably thinks like, oh, all you do is like once a week you have to sit in front of a microphone and just talk to your best friend, and that is the perk of it.
I mean that is like the best, right? That's like the main part. But then there's
a lot of stuff that happens when you're not in front of the microphone. Yeah,
we do that anyway. It's called FaceTiming, but that doesn't pay us anything. It doesn't help us anything. But okay, so I'm not trying. Also, just to be clear, folks, I'm so happy. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just like, oh my God, how do I even get like, and then I was like, oh, my car needs an oil change. Gio needs a haircut because he literally has like his hair matted. I need a haircut. Oh. I need to go to a OBGYN, GI, and
you have to take care of GIO.
Skin doctor, GIO, and then Leona needs to go to the dentist and the doctor. I'm like, how on earth do I schedule all this? Like, I don't even have time to record an episode or like be home to take in packages. Like I have to call our neighbors to take in packages because no one's home because we're traveling. And I'm like, how do I even have time to take her to the fucking dentist? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm just drowning in life. It's fine. It's mostly my shit. It's not even hers. Like she's fine. It's just like, why do I suddenly need 16 doctors? I don't have time to go to the doctor.
Now is the right before tour is usually when I do my whole like month of doctor's appointments, and so I really took in the last few months where after a long time with my own health stuff, I was calling a bunch of doctors. I took a break. And
that must be nice. Yeah.
Well, now I'm redoing it and I'm just like so overwhelmed. I totally get what you mean about like how is this other stuff that got away from me for so long now like such a priority all at once.
We scheduled you for, I don't know, August 48th at 6 22:35 a.m. And you're like, well, cool, I'm in Minnesota that day. That's the one day that like I'm just not here. And it's like, well, then she's not available for 2 years. And it's like, fuck my life. Nothing's just, it's fine. Everything's good. I'm just a little overwhelmed. And it's coming out in the form of like horrible skin hives and rashes, which is brand new to me. I've never really had skin issues my whole life. So I'm just like, cool, this is fun. And I want to add also, what was the other thing I was going to say?
Oh, there's more. Okay.
Oh, there's more. Well, there's always more. Come on. Who are we kidding? I'm not going to complain anymore. That's
no.
What's
the last thing?
I just don't want to complain. It's not for people to listen to. I have a call to action instead, which is, folks, if you are able to, this would really help me tremendously. And you don't have to help me. This is not like boohoo me. This is just a reminder that Em and I are going on tour in the fall, and my brother and I are on tour right now. And some of the shows have sold out, which is fantastic. But we still have a lot of tickets available. So you know what? If there's anything anyone can do, why don't you come see us live? That would make me feel a little more.
Yeah, everyone make the tours
fulfilled?
That Christina's on. Make it feel worthwhile that you're going through all the stress.
But don't do it just because I'm demanding it. Do it only if you want to come. But it is fun. We have the Beach Too Sandy tour is going really well, and we read 1-star reviews from your specific town, so it's fun even if people actually when we did a show recently, I forget where we were, Seattle, Portland, I don't know, oh Charlotte, and we were in Charlotte, and this woman came up to me and she goes, I brought all my friends, we all listen to And That's Why We Drink, we've never listened to Beach Too Sandy before. And I was like, so that was really scary, but I think they had a really good time. So it can be fun. It's not like you need to know the show. But anyway, and That's Why I Drink. We have our shows coming up in the fall, and Em and I are working diligently on getting we want it to be like, we want every show to be better than the last ones. That's what we're trying to do. We're like we become like really, really unhinged about it. Like you can see the energy is building in me. We haven't even started the actual like grind work, but I think I'm just in the headspace of like,
we can't talk about it yet.
My eyes twitching.
We can't talk about it yet, but let's just say our tour alone, Christine has a lot of reasons to be frenetic currently.
Screaming. Yeah.
It's all going to work out. It always works out. It always works out.
It just ends up being like, oh, we just have to do like 68,000 workarounds, and then the show ends up better than we could have imagined. But it's like, cool, did we have to go up and down 85 mountains in our bare feet, uphill both ways to get here? I guess so. I guess that's our life.
And I think another reason that you're super stressed is because I'm currently doing my portion of the show.
Right. Yes.
And you're just waiting for my portion to be done so you can do your portion of the show.
Can I help? Is there anything I can do? And I'm like, please back away from me right now. I'm doing my task. And I'm like, okay, just let me know. I'm here to help. Like,
but I totally understand, like, just like sitting and waiting and just like waiting to be stressed. Like, I totally know that feeling. It's so gross. So
it's not great. Yeah. So my hives are not. They're not hives. I don't know what it is.
Here's a good way to look at it. This is, well, I don't know. Do what you can with this. This is your last week where you don't have any work coming from me, because after this week, your part starts. So
fantastic.
I don't know if that made it better, but
no, it made it worse. It made it significantly worse. I'm just kidding. No, there will be something to it of like, okay, now at least everything's in my purview, so I can at least like mentally figure out how much my brain's gonna explode.
On my end, you're not gonna get any guff. You take as long as you need and do whatever you gotta do.
I appreciate you endlessly.
I know how long it takes to do your share of this.
Has to do also the big part of it. Or do we even talk about what we're doing or not really?
I don't know. Do we?
I think we can, right? Like people know the idea of what.
Let's consult first with our bosses. Okay, hey, so let's just talk about it.
Gio, I have to talk to you for a minute.
Leona. Okay, so obviously everyone knows that we go ghost hunting. I'm doing all of the footage watching, which means I'm currently
like every deranged camera angle of just like a fucking creepy dark wall. Emma's just sitting there for hours watching it.
Which Allison made fun of me recently because I said something like, I don't know how you just stare at a screen all day, but what I meant by it was like, because she stares at a screen and like clicks around and like, types and talks to people, but I'm just like, it's really, we did in the location I'm looking at, we've got 15 different camera angles of a 10-hour investigation. So that's 150 hours.
And then there's
and
the
I have to
audio,
just stare,
like-
and it's just completely black and silent, and I have to stare for 150 hours for any sign of any movement or
And
any
like
sound.
the problem is you can't just
Crazy
zone
making.
out. Like you have to pay close
You gotta be
attention
with it.
because you have to catch every little like ghostly thing that might happen. So sometimes Em will send me like a highlight reel of stuff and I'll be like, Em, like I think you accidentally sent me just a video of a wall. And Emma's like, no, there's like an apparition. I'm like, what are you even seeing? And I'm like slow-mowing and I'm like, oh, how the fuck did you even, so Em's like very just like in tune with, with the
My
footage.
eyes hurt, my ears hurt, my head hurts.
Everything hurts. Everything's in pain.
But
and we're
it's
just
like-
struggling. It's like, and then we have to come up with a whole show too. Like we have to find a way.
we
not
can't even
only
write
to
the
just-
script until
we
that.
have all the stuff put
Boy.
together.
And then half the
It's-
things that I find don't even work, and so then we have to like go through all the clips and we have to scrap them because
we
some
also
of them
have
just
to
like
debunk
won't.
stuff. Like we have to debunk when something's like, whoa, that's the creepiest sound ever. Then we go through like my camera, Eva's camera, and we're like, oh, Christine was, I don't know, blowing her nose or like just like was like whispering.
I thought, like, example, this time around, I thought I got like the creepiest scream, and it was actually you opening the bathroom door, like from another angle. So like,
see, it's like there's just so much annoying. It's like up and down all the time. And then at the end, you're like, wow, I just not wasted, but I spent like weeks of my life and I have like this 2-minute clip to show for
and
it,
like, and we really do scrap. So like, if I find, so far, I think I've found probably 100 clips we're showing Christine. 30 of them maybe are good, and then half of those will be put into the script. Like, so all of it almost feels like I'm watching 150 hours of pitch black for maybe 15 seconds of you to laugh. Please laugh when we get there.
I know, and then I'm like, wow, and now here I am trying to get everyone to come to our shows. Like, are you going to come now? No, I promise. But this is what we're saying. Like, we're not messing around. Like, we take it so seriously, like too seriously, maybe that
Too seriously, for sure. And
like,
also,
people
you
be like,
can't
"You
do.
can-"
So then I'm doing that part. Then Christine can't even do her part until I'm done because she goes through all of the actual like highlights. Like out of that many hours, you probably get 2 hours of stuff. Which, so like I'm going through all this stuff that no one. That's what I'm talking about with like the behind the scenes stuff. No one knows like 148 hours happened because 2 hours gets to Christine, and then by the time Christine and I are done with it, it's down to like a half an hour of stuff. It dwindles down very quickly, but Christine can't. She does like all the audio cleanup. We have to you do like a whole like video for us to walk out to. Like it's all these things, and then we have to write a script together. So the part that this is, I guess, what I was trying to say earlier is that you may be freaked out right now because you can't do anything until I'm done. But then I'm going to have that same experience where I'm sitting and waiting because I can't start writing a script with you until you're done with your part.
Exactly.
Just-
It's like you're waiting in anxiety of like, okay, like I'm not rushing you at all. I'm not trying to rush you. I'm just sitting in my like any moment now. I'll be like,
Yeah,
this
I'm
will
just
plop down on my
spiraling.
desk. Yeah, and then it's like my turn. It's like when you're waiting. Oh my god, it's like a relay race. Not that I've ever done one of those willingly.
It's just like that. It's like bobbing for apples, really.
I just stand there and then I'm like, wait, I'm like, come on, and then I get the thing and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm so slow at running. And then I like finally get there.
It's actually
And
a
it's
great
like,
analogy.
Here you go. And then it's like,
And then
now
you're
I'm
dead last.
waiting
No.
and I'm dead. Yeah. And we lose. And everyone's like, why are you doing this? No one asked you to be here. So anyway, sorry, that was really a crazy way to address this, but yeah, I'm just slightly overwhelmed, and I think every day that I wake up with more rashes, I'm just like, calm down. Why don't I calm down? Like it's not working, so I'm trying to.
You know what's
chill.
very helpful with shout out to Jordan, my therapist.
Yeah.
What she does often with me. This was actually one of the big things that began the help that I had for stage fright. Is I always hated when people were like, "Why don't you just like own the situation and then like you're kind of in control of it?" And I was like, I'm like, shut the fuck up with that. I hate that. like why don't you just accept that you're afraid of being on stage and that'll help you get out there? What is that?
What?
Sounds like someone who's never been on stage before.
Yeah, I did, and I am, and what? I still feel like shit. Okay.
So what she has done with me, because again, she's made me do like the whole visualizing something that represents my anxiety. And she's been like, okay, like we get it. Like you're a 10 out of 10 on the intense scale when it comes to, this is me talking to my like anxiety guy. It's like, I'm like, I get it. You're a 10 out of 10. There's nothing I can do about that. Like I am helpless to you. 10 out of 10. You are so scary. How about today? Why don't we just like try a 9.8 out of 10? And like that was really helpful because
Oh.
I think I always just thought like, how do I make it a 0 out of 10? I never thought about like embracing it, just
Incrementally.
going gradually.
Oh.
So maybe
Just take
talk
the
to
edge
your
off.
rashes and be like, maybe we have
No, that's
like,
not a bad idea.
maybe we allow rashes all over our body except our nose. And look, you don't have a rash on your nose,
Right.
so you're succeeding. Look at that.
Hey, look at me go. And then that kind of prompts you to be like, oh, okay, I can do the next step. Okay, yeah, I like that. That's a good angle.
I'm trying. Also, I know you said you want to go get your hair cut. Your hair actually looks quite stunning at the moment.
Oh, thank you. I took a shower today because I woke up covered in hives. And I was like, I need to rinse my body off in cold water. But thank you. I did wash my hair today, which is the first time I've even had the time to do that in a long time. So
Lovely.
Anyway, it's hard out there to be a grown up, but we all are in that same boat. I don't think Em and I are any more overwhelmed than the rest of the human population, quite frankly. Because at the end of the day, we're doing a podcast. Some people are literally saving lives, or
some people are curing
raising
cancer.
8 children, or curing cancer, or have cancer. Right? Like we're at the end of the day, we're just fucking around. So maybe that's what I tell myself. At the end of the day, you have a fucking rash in your ear. Grow up. Okay. I don't want to yell at myself though. I'll be nicer about it. Yeah. So anyway, it's okay. Everything's good. Leona's happy. I'm very fortunate. I feel like life is good. It's just very busy. So,
Well, just know everyone's going to love our show. It's going to every single time. This is not the first time we've panicked like this. We're always panicking like this before the show. And it always turns out great.
Yeah.
The live show. Yeah. It always turns out great. It's going to be great.
I think it's going to be great. And
I don't know
think
how,
gonna be,
but it's going to be great.
Next level. I mean, the first tour we ever did of the Queen Mary, like the first official
Ghost hunt.
Ghost hunt tour, yeah. Our room was literally stolen by Zach Bagans. Like he came in like totally unprompted, obviously. Like we called and found out that his team had paid the hotel to like take our room, right? So
yeah. The comedy wrote itself there.
Round 2, we were like, how the fuck could we ever top that? But then we somehow did. Like we did. We felt even prouder of our second show. So now we're like, okay, now we got to top our second show. So it feels like we're the only ones pressuring ourselves. But at the end of the day, we end up, with something we're proud of. So it's just, we set the bar high in this one aspect of our lives.
Because everyone else has such more intense jobs than we do,
Yeah,
we know that if you're coming to our show to relax, we want to make sure you're entertained. And so the pressure is on because we're aware that capitalism brings everyone down and you're taking an hour and a half to look at us. And we want to make sure that you're happy
you're
with
paying
it, so.
good money to be there and have fun. And like Em said, relax and have a good time. So yeah, we want to make that the best possible for you.
Did everyone like our 20 minutes of, some people, probably not most, I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to complain, but a lot of people seem to really enjoy us getting more candid on the podcast.
Oh, really? How do you know
so.
this? Do you follow Reddit? Because I for sure do not. Oh, how do you even know then?
Because I have friends who follow Reddit and they only tell me the good things. They know not to tell me the bad things.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Or I think they're in like Facebook groups or something. So I don't know.
Okay.
They don't send me links. They just say, "Hey, this is what's up."
I love that. I love that. Yeah. My brother usually kind of keeps an eye out just in case he needs to update me on the thoughts and feelings of the masses.
Well, it feels like, I think because a lot of people, one of the best things about our podcast, which we've talked about a million times, is that you and I, our friendship grew up on this show.
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of people who've been listening from the beginning also feel like they know us that well. And I think us being vulnerable is a nice element to the show. So I don't know if we should feel too bad.
And my body's falling apart. So I hope that makes you feel better, folks. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I hope you're happy. Yeah.
Are you happy? No, I'm totally kidding.
Is this what you want? Okay.
It does feel like I'm sharing it with everybody, though. Like, it does feel like, a venting session with friends. You know what I mean? Like, that is what it feels like. So I am appreciative of that.
Well, let's do what this podcast is meant for, as it's supposed to be escapism from the real world. So how about I tell you a ghost story?
Please. Thank you so much.
I am usually I drink my LDs, but I didn't have that in the fridge today. I had literally one called Weird Water with a little octopus on him.
I feel like I've heard of that.
I have not
Is that
ever
where did
drank
you
him
find
before.
it? In the
Girl,
fridge? Is it
in
like
the fridge.
Allison's?
I don't know anymore. It's not. It's mine now.
Are you sure it's not like alcoholic?
100% of our profits from Weird Water go to charity. Okay.
Oh, that's
Purified
nice.
water.
Okay. I don't know. It just because it said weird water, I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, does it make you feel weird? Yeah.
I mean,
speaking
sounds
of
good to me.
speaking of those that feel weird when they're not drinking any water, maybe this is your call to action to hydrate to my
Honestly,
thirsty little rats.
that might actually make me feel better. So I'm gonna drink some too. Oh, look at my cup. I mean, my
she's
sticker.
beautiful.
Yeah, this is my sticker that I bought on Etsy, and the artist who created it sent me. Well, I ordered like 6 of them, and they sold out because we reshared it on Instagram. We'll
That's
put
awesome.
let's put the link in that because I don't want to mispronounce her name or anything. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but we'll put it in the show notes. To link to if you want the sticker, which by the way is a sticker of a Liquid Death can that says drink water, you thirsty little rats. And
That's right.
it's, of course, lemon flavor. And it says, let's crack into it. And the Liquid Death part says, and that's why we drink. So it's kind of like a...
How fun.
I know, isn't that cute? I have one for you,
Wow.
Em. I bought like 6 stickers.
Thank you. Okay, well, to my queen thirsty rat, I'm glad you're hydrating. That ought to fix something.
It'll clear
And
things up.
And to my other thirsty little rats out there, please gulp, gulp, gulp. Would you like to do the countdown to my story?
I would love to. In 3, 2, 1, action.
Ooh.
That was a good one.
Today's story has a funny name, so that ought to help you get through the week as well. The Cock Lane Haunting.
What's funny about that?
I don't know. Okay, so we are in 1757. We are in England. During the Enlightenment period, there's this man named William Kent. And he is essentially a loan shark
Oh.
back in the day. But he is not good at his job. He loans a lot of money to people, and it's nearly a guarantee he'll never get the money back. He just makes poor business decisions.
So, okay, so he's just a sucker. He's just
a sucker.
Okay.
I think he's calling himself something bigger and better, but he really is just falling for anything and everything and then shocked when he doesn't get his money back. So that's what William's up to. He ends up falling in love with this woman named Elizabeth Lynes.
Okay.
Elizabeth Lynes comes from a very wealthy family, and her family thinks you could do so much better than that putz over there. I don't know what you're doing with this loan shark. But, you know, if you're going to be with him, I guess there's nothing we can do about that. They end up getting married. Elizabeth gets pregnant, but she must have had a difficult pregnancy because her sister Fanny moves in to help them and help around the house. The birth must have also been tough because Elizabeth dies shortly after giving birth to the baby.
Oh, no.
But Fanny decides that she's going to stay and take care of her nephew and be there for her extended family. But then the baby dies
No.
at like 2 months old.
No.
So grief-stricken William and his sister-in-law Fanny turn to each other for comfort, and they do a little falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
And Fanny's parents, aka Elizabeth's parents, who already hated
Oh
him.
my
are
God,
like,
now both their kids are married to the same guy. This blows.
they're like, motherfucker, like, I hate this guy. What is he? What is so amazing about him that they just can't get enough of him?
Man.
Cock Lane Haunting. No, I'm just kidding.
Interesting.
Interesting. But no, there must be something charming about this guy. And yeah, two of the daughters have now fallen in love with him.
Wow.
And so they decide they want to get married. And her parents are like, you have to be kidding me. Absolutely not. This was especially forbidden because back then, church law prohibited certain marriages. And a lot of times those marriages included a widow or a widower marrying their dead spouse's sibling.
Really?
So, which I don't know why that was the rule, especially because a lot of people at the time did not like that rule. They wanted to be able to marry their dead spouse's sibling.
Semi-regularly.
You know, it's weird. It happened in my own family. There was like 3 brothers from one family and 3 sisters from another family who just all married each other. And
Oh my Lord.
and so much time has passed that we don't really know the reason. I was like, there's no way 3 brothers fell in love with 3 sisters. But I think what happened is that people just kept dying and you just wanted to keep everyone in the family. So you just decided to marry them to take them in. And
Cool.
but so that, I mean, I'm assuming that's the reason. It feels more likely than 3 brothers falling in love with 3
Wow,
sisters.
that's such
I
an
feel like it was
opposite of what M would normally say, which is like, oh my gosh, wow, what a cool love story. I feel like
if it's all about falling in love, that is super cool. But I'm thinking logically, that's just probably not likely. But I don't
yeah,
know.
Who knows? Maybe they were all just like swept up in the moment. They were like, I guess I'm in love with a 3rd sister.
Or yeah, it's like, well, 2 of them fell in love with 2 of them, and then the other 3 were
It's like, I guess I have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but despite this rule, a lot of families thought like this is a stupid rule. Like, what if at a time when women can't take care of themselves, if my husband dies, I would like the brother to maybe take me in and my kids, just so that way the extended family all stays together. Or if the wife died, maybe the sister, like Fanny, would want to come in and like make sure that the children are still taken care of when the husband's at work. Or it doesn't have to be like a romantic marriage, which by the way, marriage did not start with romance. It could totally be transactional just to keep the family together. But there was this law that said you can't do it. And there were some churches who actually did go against that. They were like, okay, we'll marry you like kind of secretly and like we just won't really talk about it. But if anyone like contests this, then we're going to void it. We're going to say like, oh, this is null. So if we get caught, basically we're going to deny.
Back off. Yeah.
And so William and Fanny, who were now in love with each other and wanted to get married, they knew even if Fanny's parents approved, they really couldn't do it unless they found a sympathetic church. But because her parents were so against it, even if they found a sympathetic church, they knew that her parents would challenge it and it was going to be void no matter what. So
Right. Okay.
marriage wasn't really an option for them. So they just kind of took off and they ran to London together. They moved into a rental house that happened to be on Cock Lane. And this house belonged to a guy named Richard Parsons, who was renting it out to them.
Okay.
And Richard worked at a nearby church, so William told him immediately, "Oh yeah,
You're telling me
What?
Dick owns Cock Lane? That's out of control. I don't know if I believe this story anymore.
This does actually sound like maybe it just got passed through England as like a bar story."
Yeah, it's like one of those.
And her
like,
name-
urban
And her name's
legends.
Fanny, which is
Oh my God, you're totally right. There's Fanny
Which-
moves onto Cock Lane in Dick's building. This is like ridiculous. Okay,
it's ridiculous. Also,
it's
isn't
ridiculous.
in England doesn't Fanny not mean butt? It means the other side.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know why they would call her that over there. but
William,
okay.
Willie.
A Willie and Fanny move into Dick's boarding house on Cock Lane. This is really ridiculous.
Maybe I'm actually telling a really long bar joke.
This feels like it's going to have a punchline for sure. Yeah.
If there is, I don't know about it.
I mean, the part about the baby and mom dying is not funny so far, so I'm waiting for it to get funny, but maybe it will.
But also a lot of like old English jokes are kind of dark. So,
I mean,
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
our jokes are kind of dark, yeah, so I guess maybe we're in for a treat.
let's see where this takes us. Maybe to Pornhub or something. But
God, no wonder our internet keeps lagging.
So Richard he actually works at a nearby church. So when William and Fanny are looking for a place to move in and they find out he works at the church, they're on site. They start lying. They're like, oh no, we're married for sure. Don't even worry about it. We're married.
For sure.
We deserve to live together and you shouldn't even look twice at that.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard takes them in. He is going through it. I don't know what's going on in his life, but he is hurting money-wise. That's why he has people renting his house and things like that. And William, the incredible loan shark he is, decides to lend him money, thinking that he'll get paid back eventually. And then now he's in an awkward situation where his landlord is not paying him, which feels like he kind of like games the system.
That's ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous thing you've said so far, and you've said a lot of dirty words. Wow. So like he's literally I've never heard of such a bad loan shark that your landlord owes you money. Like this
I know.
is ridiculous. Okay.
So he never sees this money again. Him and Richard just fucking hate each other now because I think Richard's like, get out of my house, and William's like, pay me first.
Yeah, for real.
Which, like, wouldn't you think it would all be resolved if William was like, I'm just not going to pay rent and we can just call it
That's
even
what I
or
was
something?
thinking, yeah.
But I'm assuming something was going on where Richard needed even more money and the rent was like barely covering it. So if he missed rent, I don't know what the deal was. But anyway, he loses the money. He never pays William back. William hates him. Richard hates him. And they start getting into fights over it. Eventually, William threatens to sue Richard, which I'm sure he's done to many other people he lost money to.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Fanny, is now pregnant. Or his wife,
yeah. Common law wife.
Common law wife is now pregnant. And she is too stressed about this, but she did not like being alone. She was like, I can't stand the stress of either of you. I want to be alone, but I don't know really who else to turn to. She knew that her landlord had a daughter named Betty and invited Betty to come stay over, which I feel like is so messy because she's like, okay, my husband and our landlord hate each other. How about I call the landlord's daughter and have her come over for a little sleepover?
So right. Like you're right. This is getting toxic as fuck.
It's like so messy.
It's
like
so messy.
And how do you even tell your husband, like, oh yeah, the guy you hate, his daughter's coming over to hang?
Because I need her to be here because you're not helping enough. I don't know.
Right.
This just seems really messy. Yeah.
So when William goes away on business, she invites Betty over and says, like, oh, we can just like have a girls' night. Keep in mind, Betty is 10.
Keep in mind? What do you mean? You have not told me that yet. That is oh gosh. Oh golly
Talk about extra messy too, because it's like now I feel like you're absolutely just gonna like trash her dad to her.
Now there's a child here.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So apparently the thought behind it is that Fanny must have seen something in Betty that reminded her of Elizabeth, and since she lost her sister, she wanted to treat this other kid kind of like her sister, and
she's
just
pregnant,
got along.
So it's like,
she's
pregnant. Maybe she can have a bigger yeah, okay. I get it.
And it's the 1700s. I don't know how old Fanny is, but to be a pregnant woman back then, she had to be like maybe 15. I don't know.
Right.
So
exactly.
maybe they really were like not that
more
far
contemporaries.
off in age.
Yeah.
So Betty comes over, they sleep in the same room, and Fanny keeps complaining about all these strange noises that keep happening at night in the house. Which, like, by the way, you already invited a 10-year-old over, shady, but like now you're just scaring the shit out of her.
Now she's in your bed and you're trying to scare the shit out of her. Cool. Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the reason why she had her over. Like, because she was scared.
Oh, maybe, yeah. That could be
right?
it.
Like, I want someone to lay next to me.
Yeah, truly. And like 10-year-old, you'll figure it out. You'll help me, right?
Yeah, you'll sleep anywhere.
Because it was originally Richard's house and he like moved out to sublet it, maybe he thought like, oh, Betty, you've lived here before.
Oh, right. Like,
maybe
this is
you
your old
can...
room.
Yeah. Has to be so weird as a 10-year-old watching adults claim your bedroom as their room.
And to be clear, folks, not cool. Do not invite a 10-year-old into your bed just because you're scared. I don't know how old this woman is, but like it's not cool. Whatever's happening. Okay.
So she invites Betty over. She's complaining about like, the house is so creepy by myself. Thank you for coming over. I can't ever fall asleep because of all these strange noises at night. There's knocking and scratching sounds and I can just never sleep. So to this day, people have also speculated that during this time, Fanny also again confided in Betty that maybe because they were like having a girls' night and they were telling secrets and maybe they felt like they were close to each other. I don't know why she felt so damn close to a 5th grader, but apparently she maybe confided in Betty that she wasn't really married to William. And so if Betty told her father, it would have only given Richard even more reason to hate William.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Maybe some leverage too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know, but that's like the thought. So William comes home from his business trip where he probably lost money. I don't know. And
he just gave money to everyone. Yeah.
He says, and apparently things get worse between the men. They're still fighting. Eventually gets to a point where William and Fanny move out and Richard and Betty move back into the house.
Okay.
Apparently, Betty reported never hearing any hauntings after that. So it was only during the William and Fanny's stay that there was any creepy sounds. And at some point that kind of spread throughout the neighborhood. The like, oh, when they lived here, they were hearing weird things. Mm-hmm. And at some point it leaked that they were an illegitimate marriage.
Uh-oh.
And so their history kind of kept, followed them. And the neighborhood conflated everything and thought, oh, because they're sinning, their sister, her dead sister must have been haunting them for betraying the family.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow.
Which, like, I love a small town gossip that's like a little too much. Like,
they take it a little too far. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the main thought, is that this was clearly the ghost of Elizabeth being saying, how could you?
Scratching on the walls. Yeah.
Scratching on the walls. So now they've moved away because they had to. William and Richard were fighting too much. They end up finding this other area to stay, and very quickly, I guess it was like they found it last minute. It was really dirty. It was unclean. And Fanny contracts smallpox. And remember, she's also pregnant, and her and the baby both die.
Oh my God, what? I did not see that coming.
So now both of his wives, who were sisters and carrying his children, both die. Babies both die.
Oh my gosh. Terrible.
When Fanny died, everything of hers, because remember, she's from a wealthy family, everything of hers surprisingly went to William. The family did not know that they were playing house and that they got married, and did not know that Fanny had rewritten her will, that everything would go to William.
Oh boy.
So the family was pissed because they were like, oh, well, now this fucking guy that we hate and associate with both of our dead daughters, now we have to give him part of our money? Fuck this. But Fanny's brother, she has two brothers. They both come into play. There's John and there's Thomas.
Okay.
Fanny's brother, John, eventually honors her wishes and says, yeah, we don't like the guy, but apparently he had something going on because both of our sisters liked him. We're going to give Fanny's share to William.
Okay.
I'm honestly surprised at this point that William didn't also ask for Elizabeth's, because he needs so much money.
Yeah.
that he keeps losing everything.
He's also probably not good at being stern with anyone, so he's probably like, can I have it? And they're probably like, no. And he's
Please.
like, okay.
Yeah. So I'm shocked he didn't ask for Elizabeth's. I don't know if that happened. I never heard about it, but Fanny's share ends up going to him.
Okay.
The money that he got was just over like $30,000 today. And the money came from these properties that once belonged to her other brother, Thomas.
Okay.
So he had these properties. He's dead. I don't know what's going on with this family line, but every sibling is like dying except John. So there was a guy, Thomas. He had all these properties. He died. And then in his will, it was, when I die, I want you to sell my properties and then just split it amongst my family.
Okay.
So when he died, the Fanny's share was Fanny inherited her share, and then when she died, William inherited her share.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So apparently, John, the brother that has survived it all amidst all of his siblings, he was responsible for divvying out the funds after Thomas died. But he didn't know everything, so it was a total accident. But if he finds out later that one of the properties he sold after Thomas died, Thomas didn't actually own that property. He was just renting it. And so John accidentally sold somebody else's land.
Uh-oh.
And he was like, oh, shit, like, I just sold property that wasn't ours. Whoops, I need to repay the buyer. So everyone that I just sent money to, can you awkwardly send it back to me so I can repay the buyer?
Cancel that Venmo request.
Yes, exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly. So all the family was like, yeah, totally, like, take this chunk of our inheritance and pay it back towards the buyer. The only person who wouldn't do it was William. And everyone's like, well, there's another reason why we fucking hate this guy, because
this guy just sucks sometimes.
he married both of our daughters when we didn't like him. Both of them are dead. He took their money, and now he's not even giving back a portion that, like, isn't owed to him.
Right.
And outraged, John files to sue William for the money and was ready to finally take him down once and for all, since nobody in that family liked him. William is unfazed. He thinks that the courts are going to agree with him that he never did anything wrong, and John was just stupid with money, says the bad loan shark. But John was just stupid with money, and it's not William's responsibility to send him money that he shouldn't have ever rightfully inherited to begin with. So he ends up marrying another wealthy woman named Bathsheba Bowers, and he thought that was kind of the end of his time with the Lyons family. But because he ended up marrying another wealthy woman, everyone's like, hang on, 3 wealthy women you're marrying, all back to back, and you're bad with money, and you're shady, blah, blah, blah. Maybe this is intentional. Maybe you've got some sort of scheme going on. So back on Cock Lane, now 12-year-old Betty is living in the house because they're not renting it out.
Spinster.
Is a spinster on her deathbed of old age.
Yeah. Aww.
And apparently she is now reporting hearing strange noises in the house.
Oh, shit. 2 years later. Okay, interesting.
2 years after Fanny moved out, and when they moved out, there was never a sound again.
She didn't hear it. Yeah.
So now 2 years later, now there's sounds back.
Weird.
After Fanny's dead. So last time it was believed to be the original wife, Elizabeth, haunting her sister Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
But Betty starts hearing scratching noises like Fanny used to, and the locals hear about this. And the rumor now is that Fanny has replaced Elizabeth as the ghost and is back from the dead to warn everyone in town that it was not smallpox that killed her, but William.
Shut the fuck up. How did I not see that coming?
The way that I would be at the tavern going to every table being like, are you reading about this? Like, are you hearing this?
If you don't believe in past lives, consider this. There's no way in the entire universe of existence, there's no way that M was not at that fucking tavern that day. And we all know it. We know M's soul was there just fucking eating this shit up.
I was the town crier. And I
you
think
you were, and you still are.
And I've always said that.
And I've always said that.
I know that if I've been around for at least 10 lives, 4 of them I was a town crier. There's no way. With the amount of gossip that I just eat it up. I just eat it up.
It's like a big warm blanket on you. Like you just drape yourself in it.
I was probably like some horrible, unethical paparazzi or something in another life.
For sure.
I don't know what I did, who I was with, but I know that it was juicy. I do know that.
Oh, yeah. You know it was a grand old time.
So, yes, keep in mind, I'm running from tavern to tavern being like, if you haven't heard about it, I'm here to tell you about it. I feel like maybe I was one of those little newsy boys who was like, get your papers or something like that.
Yeah, just a nickel.
Okay, so the whole town is hearing about this, probably because my past life is screaming about it.
I mean, nonstop.
The Lyons family versus William, that whole debacle. I mean, gossip was bound to happen because the family already hated a man who married 2 of their daughters. Both of them died, and now there's ghosts.
Now he won't give their money back, right?
And he won't give them their money back when he doesn't even deserve it. The town is now saying that he was just always bad with money, so he is just a gold digger. He was just only after wealthy women, and he must have poisoned Fanny and just moved on to the next.
Oh, shit.
Meanwhile, Betty keeps reporting in her town, the knocks are getting louder than ever. Everyone in the neighborhood could hear the knocks from the street.
Oh, my God.
They happened throughout the day, but they also got more active right before Betty would go to bed. And soon, one reverend named John Moore decided that he was going to investigate the ghost of Scratching Fanny, which is what I've obviously named her at the tavern.
Oh, no. That sounds like you've really got a yeast infection that won't go away.
No.
I'm so
Maybe
sorry.
this joke I'm telling, this long form joke, is a joke I created in a past life. That's the dream.
Is this the joke? Like Scratching Fanny? It feels like a thing you would say for some Vagisil, if you need Vagisil. Like it feels like I've got Scratching Fanny, like
it certainly sounds like herpes or something, like something something with an itch.
Yeah. It doesn't have quite a ghostly ring to it, more just like a inconvenient health risk situation.
Also, I think when we say it with our American accent, it does sound more like a medical condition. But I think if like an English, like an old grandma who's like a little too silly after a few cocktails, if she said Scratching Fanny, I'd be like, girl, you're so silly.
You were so silly, but also like, do you need me to go to CVS? Because it sounds like you do need some Vagisil.
Yeah.
I can't unhear it. I'm sorry.
Just a soap scrub is all you really need.
Oof.
So anyway, this reverend goes to Cock Lane. I'm sure there's a joke there too.
Yeah.
He goes to Cock Lane. He meets with Betty, and Betty has a sister, Anne. So now I'm wondering why the hell she felt the need to go find a sister in Fanny when she had one
Wait.
in Anne.
I thought Fanny was looking for the sister because she lost her sister.
Yeah, but But then also, why didn't she also invite Anne over?
Well, was Anne younger or older?
Yeah, Anne was 9, not 10.
Yeah,
probably.
I was gonna say because I don't. If she was older, then I do not know why she didn't invite Anne.
I don't know. But so Betty and Anne, they're at the house on Cock Lane. This reverend shows up, and they're like, we're hearing about scratching Fanny. You got to tell like what's this about? And Betty and Anne, they say, yeah, she's a real thing. She's following us all over the house. She seems to especially, cater to Betty. Wherever Betty is, you can hear Fanny not too far away. They said whenever they would go anywhere, you knew Fanny was nearby because of the scratching sounds. And Reverend John Moore, he witnesses the knocks himself coming from the walls, from a bed, from a table, and he also heard scratching sounds throughout the room. He's immediately convinced of this ghost's existence, and soon enough, the entire town and its surrounding towns are talking about this nonstop. They all, probably because of a name like Scratching Fanny, and now in hindsight, I'm like, oh yeah, well
That's
that's
catchy.
just comedy writing itself.
Sure.
So people gather around the home. They start showing up like unannounced because they want to hear the scratching from outside. Richard, because he's always hurting for money, he began charging admission for seances in his home
Of
for people
course.
to even experience Fanny's ghost.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted a chance to visit the house and to see and experience these spirits once and for all. And many would join the seances to hear the ghost knock for once for yes, 2 for no, and through enough seances and questionings, it was determined that yes, Fanny Lines was indeed the spirit, and she was poisoned by her ex-husband, William. So now Reverend John Moore. He publishes a story in the Public Ledger.
Oh boy.
This is me.
Yeah, this
for
is you
sure.
for sure.
He publishes a story in the Public Ledger, and the Public Ledger was known at the time to basically be a local National Enquirer. It was
I love that for them.
every article was just essentially ragging on each other from your own town.
Okay.
The story he wrote about Scratching Fanny, he censored the names by just keeping it at initials, but everyone could guess F stood for Fanny and Mr. K stood for Mr. William Kent.
Yeah. Not smooth.
It was pretty clear to everybody what he was talking about. And then he published something in the next issue too, where he kept talking about the hauntings and the drama of the family. And basically he said that people were witnessing shadows of a woman beckoning them into the house. People were hearing the knocks and scratching at all hours, especially when Betty was in her room. And the story kept growing, and soon there were poems, lines and plays, articles, and art that was all being published throughout all of London about Scratching Fanny.
Holy crap.
Once William read the ledger and was like, I think I'm Mr. K.
Oh.
William called, I don't know, found Reverend John Moore.
He called upon him. I feel like that's what people said back then. Like, you just call upon someone. It means, like, you just show up.
Sure. Or, like, open your window and just go, John,
Hey.
what are you doing?
Hey, Johnny boy.
He finds Reverend John Moore. He says, you need to clear my name. I saw what you wrote in the paper. That's fucked up. And John says, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I fully believe in the Fanny accusations, and I think you killed her.
That's true. The Reverend, like, fully believes it. So it's not like he's even just doing it for funsies. He, like, seemingly, it seems like he genuinely believes this is a spirit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
William is like, yeah, I get that I've done some shitty things, but I'm not a murderer. Like, please
Right.
don't let people think that about me. And Reverend Moore says, look, if you want to clear your name, come to the house to witness Fanny's ghost with me. And you can even
Oh,
bring your own
shit.
witnesses, and we'll see what she has to say. And William's like, okay, I'll go to the house with Fanny's literal doctor who cared for her until she died from smallpox.
Oh, boy.
And I will take her pharmacist who was prescribing her. At the time, he was called an apothecary, not a pharmacist.
Right.
And I'm going to take him. I'm going to take everyone who knew her medical background, who's been with her since we've been together, to attest that I did not poison her. Stop saying that.
Oh, boy.
So at the house, they all 4 of them, the 2 witnesses, William and the Reverend, They all wait for Fanny to show up. They wait for her ghost to appear. She never does. And finally, Reverend Moore's like, how about you go downstairs and I'll let you know when she appears. Which is like so shady. It's like, why? How about we all sit in the same fucking room and we see if she appears?
Yeah, I don't love that.
And eventually he comes running back downstairs and he goes, oh, she's here now. She's here now. You can come up.
Very convenient.
Mm-hmm. And Reverend John Moore starts questioning Fanny on the murder, and they start hearing knocks around the room, ultimately asking if her murderer was in the room, and she hears a yes, or she knocks yes.
Uh-oh.
William, who maybe didn't murder her, is probably like, oh, fuck, like, this is not good.
I mean, yeah.
After the seance was complete, William storms out with his witnesses, and all three believed that Richard, who still owed William money, this is Richard, his landlord, who still owns the house, still owns William money. All three of them believe that Richard put his daughter up to something or did something and has now convinced the entire town of this elaborate hoax. Reverend Moore just happens to be falling for it like it's nobody's business.
I mean, it's very convenient that he owes this guy money. He hates him. The woman dies, and his daughter's like, oh, she used to hear knocking and scratches, and I can replicate those. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, perfect recipe to bring this guy down.
Yeah, but also William has such a bad reputation for already being like such a schmoozer, and like nobody's gonna believe him when he's like, oh, they just don't like me.
He's kind of screwed.
It's like, well, nobody likes you, so
that's not part. Yeah, that's just a given.
But you're right that Reverend John Moore weirdly heavily believes in the Fanny ghost. He even met with London's mayor. This is what I would have also. This is round 2 of me at the tavern.
I was gonna say, are you the mayor too? I feel like your soul split up into all of these people because you couldn't decide who to be.
Well, he even meets with London's mayor and asks that personally. He asks for William to be arrested for murder. Like, this is a man who maybe didn't murder anybody, and there's no evidence.
This is a man of the cloth who's just asking for this guy to be arrested on no proof except scratching noises.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Other members of the public also began to call for William to be hanged.
Oh, my God! You can't do that!
But some people, thank God, with some sound of mind, were at William's defense. But this includes some church authorities who actually saw Fanny on her deathbed, and they witnessed William's adoration for her. They saw Fanny dying of natural causes. They remember the doctor saying that. And they wanted Richard arrested for false accusations against William and that he should be hanged.
Yeah. Well, okay. I was going to say, yeah, exactly. Wait, no. I don't think anyone should be hanged, to be clear. I just feel like, why are we getting so bent out of shape? Like
we get it.
Nobody needs to be hanged right now, you know? Just, relax.
Like, 2 men are mad at each other. I get it. Like, sit down. It's fine.
I get it. The world is fucking ending, okay? But, come on. Take a break.
The mayor shows up after hearing all of this. He's like, what is this hullabaloo about some fucking guy who owes someone money?
This hullabaloo.
The mayor shows up and he's like, hold up, there is not enough evidence to arrest anyone or hang anyone. Why are we doing this?
Thank you.
And then he says, but I do order Richard Parsons, who owns the house, he must allow a church authority and that church authority's committee to observe Betty to see if she really is haunted. Because maybe there's an exorcism needed.
I'm assuming they told the Reverend, but your present company excluded. You're not going to be the...
Reverend Moore was not...
Reverend
Moore was not involved.
Not invited.
Not invited.
Okay, I think that's for the best. I think he's a little biased at this point.
The mayor sounds like he was a good mayor at the time. I don't know what...
The mayor, for what it's worth, he kind of seems to have a good head on his shoulders, at least, compared to the rest of them.
Maybe I'm wrong. If I were to look up the 1757 mayor of London, maybe...
His track record, yeah.
But in this one case, he seems to be...
this one instance...
So he says, this is all fucked up, but Richard, we're going to have a committee actually investigate if your daughter is being possessed or something, because if that's the case, then since we're a big, God-fearing community, maybe this girl needs an exorcism or something.
Oh, God.
So this committee shows up at Richard's house. It includes this guy named Stephen. He's an earl of the church.
Ooh.
A priest named Dr. Douglas. And he was known to investigate fraud in the church. There's another doctor, there's a church speaker, and then there's that Earl who I was talking about, his neighbor comes too, and the neighbor's name is Captain Wilkinson, and he was one of the people who actually attended some of the earlier seances at the house. And by the way, was so scared of ghosts that in case anything went awry at the seance, he brought a gun to fight off the ghosts.
To fight off the ghosts. Sure. Okay, you know what? This guy seems a little kooky, and for now, I'm here for it. We'll see what happens.
He was okay with the seance. He was not thinking it all the way through, though.
Gotcha.
So basically, it's a bunch of church people, and then this guy's neighbor. They all are part of the
with a gun.
with a gun.
Who is so scared that somehow he still continues to come. It's like us. Like, we're so scared, and yet we keep doing it. Like, there's no good reason. Like, don't worry, I brought a gun. It's like, that doesn't make it better.
Doesn't help.
That just makes
That's
it,
when Christine says, another location where we're told not to bring alcohol. How about I just bring wine instead? It's like, that's the same thing. Okay.
I'm upset they won't let me bring alcohol. How about I just bring some gin and then I'll feel better? It's like that. You're literally missing the whole fucking point.
I will say this won't go into the future show, so I can just say it now. But there is a clip that I think is so funny of you that I'm currently watching, is that because we're not supposed to have brought alcohol, and this is the third location you've done that, Christine. You keep calling your wine your red water. You're like, oh, I just have to go get my red water. I said, go drink my red water.
I don't even remember saying that. It clearly was just like in the moment, my like defense mechanism. Like I just switched my brain to don't say alcohol words.
So maybe Captain Wilkinson was like, I need to bring my gun. I mean my ghost net.
My big magic ghost stick. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
So the committee, they all basically move into Richard's house. They're there to investigate and observe Betty and see what the hell's going on. Because maybe there really is a ghost. Despite the two men feuding, maybe there's a ghost to pay attention to. So Betty stays in the committee's custody for several nights, although I will say, thank God, they all agreed that women should be watching her in bed 24/7 instead of a fucking 12-year-old with a bunch of grown-ass men.
That's a good start.
And so there were 4 women who were on night watch, essentially, with her, and there was always a woman around, it seems.
Right.
And they noticed right away that while Betty was in bed, the knocking would begin, and the women would report back to the committee that, yep, knocking's going on.
Mm-hmm.
One woman claimed that the knocking sounded like it was Betty herself hitting her chest really hard or her fist. So, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
You know?
Whoa. Yeah, you did that really well.
Thank you.
Are you Betty, too? I can't keep track of this. This is getting out of control.
1 for yes, 2
all
for
your
no.
Past lives.
Uh-oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, well, did you ever see Dolly Parton, how she plays the nails on her?
No.
Oh, she's like her acrylic nails. She plays them as a washboard on a lot of her songs.
Wait, that's incredible.
And if you look at some of her songs in the credits of like who wrote it, who produced it, whatever, it will say like guitar, this person, piano, this person, nails, Dolly Parton.
Shut the fuck up. That's so cool. I did not know that.
I don't know if I don't have acrylic nails, but
You don't?
I don't know if you can hear it or not.
Actually, you do that better. I can't do it either. Huh.
But anyway.
Damn, Em.
If you would like to
You're a
watch a
musical
video
genius.
of Dolly Parton doing it into a microphone, it's lovely.
Oh, I do. I would.
So, let's see. Where were we? Oh, okay. So Betty is Dolly Parton and I am Fanny, I think, is where we ended. And you're Captain Wilkinson.
That sounds... I don't know. I'm Captain Wilkinson for sure with my big gun that's not going to do anything except put everyone else in danger. Sure.
So Betty, they think Betty's like hitting herself in some way or she's causing the knocking and it's not actually a ghost.
Sorry, I'm like, because I feel like you can hit your chest and make like a hollow sound, you know? Right? Like.
That just sounds like a door knocking. But maybe if it's supposed to sound like the walls are knocking.
What I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like if it's supposed to sound like wood, I don't know.
Well, Betty says, hey, you're wrong. It's not me. And then the committee goes, okay, well, show us your knuckles. And they were wildly calloused.
Girl.
And conveniently enough, there was no knocking ever unless Betty was completely covered in bedding. Like, so you couldn't see her.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then Betty says, okay, but if you really want to see her for yourself, you can go to Fanny's crypt and she will appear. You can see her there. And the men are like,
who said this? Betty said this?
I think she was, in hindsight,
she was trying to deflect, like,
I think she was like a 12-year-old trying to come up with a way to like reason herself out of this and was like, well, if you go away, then I don't have to deal with this.
Yes, yes. Why don't you go over there and look for her? I promise you'll see her.
Yeah, so
Shut
they
the
said,
door.
I'll
Yeah.
bite. We'll go to the cemetery and look for her. And
I'm sure this child is with callous knuckles is telling the truth. Yeah.
so they go to the crypt. They don't see her. They come back and they go, hey, Betty, no Fanny. What's that about? And she goes, and they say, here's what we're going to do. If there's no real proof of Fanny soon, we're going to arrest both of your parents for fraud. For
Uh-oh.
for one, for being complicit in your fraud and you're a child, but also because you're like, if your parents know about this and they've been exploiting you by like
Yeah, that part's
charging
not good.
for seances and letting people think that this place is really haunted and allowing
Right.
accusations to spew about someone who didn't murder somebody, they're going to
Right.
jail if you don't show us proof that Fanny exists. Imagine the torment of a 12-year-old.
The poor thing. She's like, I'm in too deep for sure, for sure.
So they say, we're going to...
But like, where's her mom? I have not heard a thing about her mom yet. I thought it was just her and her dad. And
That's
her
what
sister.
I thought too. Her mom does show up at the end of the story, but I think it was more like because at that time she was property of him and like he was about this life that maybe the whole family just
Right,
got
okay.
looped into this. I don't know.
Right.
She doesn't really get mentioned all that much. It's mainly Richard because of his feud with William that he gets mentioned
okay.
more. But so they say, yeah, Betty, your parents are going to jail if you don't show us proof of Fanny. We'll leave you for a little bit and you can talk to her and tell her that she needs to show up. So they leave, or what she thinks they leave. The men leave and they have a maid stay behind to watch Betty through a spy hole they cut into the wall.
Oh no. Oh no, that's not good.
And the maid watched Betty eventually go into the chimney in her room and pull out a small wooden board that was hiding in there. And then she stuffs it into her pajamas and crawls into bed. As in, like, oh, now I can knock on this little piece of wood under the bed.
I see. You sneaky little thing.
So she climbs into bed, acts like nothing happened. The committee comes back, and this fucking maid snitches. Okay.
No. Well, isn't that her job though? Wasn't she told to do this?
I guess so. I don't know. Maybe they weren't
Wasn't she
homies.
told
I feel
to
like if I were
watch-
expected to watch a 12-year-old girl who was pulling a prank and it spiraled, I would be like, I've been there.
That's why you weren't the maid. You were the fucking town crier. So I guess, yeah, I see what you would do. I just don't think that that's necessarily
Well,
the most relatable. Yeah.
well, when the committee comes back, Fanny tells them, oh, Fanny will appear by morning. Don't worry. She's going to appear by morning. I'm sure that was like just to keep stalling.
I mean, yeah. Like, what else are you going to do at this point?
Everyone goes to bed. The maid snitches to the men about the board she saw her grab. And
Yeah.
the men then have the women search Betty. They find the board in her pajamas. Betty begins to sob, and soon the story all falls into place that Richard had his money issues with William, so they already didn't like each other. And then one day after Fanny died and William ran off with her inheritance, her brother John, who was trying to find him to get his chunk back for that property, went knocking
Yeah.
on doors in town and stumbled upon Richard's house and went, I'm looking for this guy, William. Do you know him?
I fucking hate him. And then the guy was like, well, come on in.
Richard-
Let's have a cuppa.
Richard was probably like, you could have not picked a more perfect house to show up at.
Seriously.
Because I fucking
Seriously.
hate that guy. What do you need? How do I help?
Precisely.
And so I don't know if it was John or a guy sent by John, but somebody was like, this guy owes me money. And Richard was like, funny, I owe that guy money, but I am probably going to lie about that to your face. And we both just hate
Yeah,
him.
but obviously I'm switching it around. I prefer this storyline, yes.
So I don't know if they all conspired together. I don't know what the deal was, but Richard at least took it upon himself that like, oh, people are looking for him. I've got something on him. Or I at least want him to leave me alone. So to destroy William's reputation once and for all, I'm going to tell my daughter Betty to make up the ghost of Fanny
Oh, that's so fucked up.
and say that Fanny told you she was murdered. And that way he can never show his face here again because he'll be on the run as a murderer. Ultimately, Richard and his wife and Reverend John Moore and many others were charged with conspiracy for propagating the stories against William. Two of the men actually paid William damages to avoid harsher sentences, which I love that at the end he's still getting money out of people or not getting money out of people.
He is. Yeah, what the fuck?
Reverend John Moore and a third guy also had to raise money in the community to pay for damages, and then they went free. Which, like, Reverend John Moore, yeah, he was like really intense about this, but he did nothing worse than just like really believed in something. So
He did really believe it, and I feel like he just got God.
yeah,
You know, like I think at the end of the day, he wasn't cheating or lying or making stuff up.
no, I think
Technically.
he got. That's exactly right. And then Richard himself, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison, and his wife, who I said would show up, she was sentenced to serve 1 year of hard labor. And so I was like,
Oh my God.
and I was like, what the hell could hard labor look like in 1757 for women?
That's not good. That can't be good.
Apparently, 18th century hard labor camps had women beating hemp with a heavy mallet, which they would beat hemp to turn the hemp into rope. And so
Yeah.
all she would do all day is swing a mallet and like hit a log of wood with hemp
Girl.
on it. And it would be from 6 in the morning to 6 at night every day for a year. That's a lot of shoulder pain. That's a lot of back pain.
So fucked up, dude. That's so fucked up.
And we don't know how involved she was. Maybe she like fully deserved to be sent there, but like I don't know anything. I feel like she was not guilty. Like I don't know enough about her side of things.
It seemed like this is a stretch of a punishment. Like nobody was. I mean, I know this was all bad, but like nobody was killed. Thank God, nobody was hanged or anything.
Yeah.
It sounds like they almost were though.
What I thought was fun, because I've never seen this, I've never heard of a story like this in real life. Richard was actually displayed at the pillory, which, like, if you've ever been to, it was one of those, like, the wooden things where you put your hand in and your head in.
Up.
And it's just in the middle of the square, so people could just, you'd be embarrassed, basically. It was just, you would be locked in there. He was actually displayed at the pillory to be publicly shamed, which, the town crier in me would have been front row center.
You would have been
watching him
taking
at the pillory.
selfies with him in the pillory.
I would have been like, I'm going to put a pen in your hand. Can you sign my paper, my public ledger that I wrote about?
My public ledger.
And actually, there were a lot of people like that, because so many people in support of him and not William actually saw him at the pillory and gave him money. And, like, gave their sympathies and their condolences that he was being tried.
Probably were still like on their whole like, they still probably believed some of it, or at least believed that they hated that other guy. They hated William.
Totally. So he had actual like fans come and support him while he was at the pillory. And although William's innocence was proven, London itself was reluctant to give up the Cock Lane ghost, probably because of the name.
Yeah.
And many still insist it was real. People still have talked about the Cock Lane haunting. Betty and her sister went to go live with relatives until her parents' time was served. London's mayor was extremely relieved for this to just be fucking done with, because he was so over that bullshit. And Betty was never bothered by scratching Fanny again. So that's the Cock Lane haunting.
Holy crap. Scratching Fanny is the best thing to ever come out of any episode we've done. No offense. But wow, that is
I really like that story. That was
level.
A good one.
I can't believe that. I did not know what to expect today, but it was not that. So nice work, Em.
Thank you. Anywhere where that we can throw gossip into the mix, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and a pillory situation, Oh, boy.
And a town crier? You kidding me? A town crier and a pillory? I call that a perfect recipe.
What more could you want? Well, I'm very excited, Em, because I haven't been so excited to do a story until this one in a long time. Does that make sense? Did I just speak English? I don't know.
I heard it in whatever language you spoke.
Okay, excellent. I just cannot wait to do this story, except my computer won't let me open it, which is kind of why I'm just... Oh, here we go.
Cute.
Much like What's Her Name, I'm just stalling. I'm like, look over there.
It's giving Betty Parsons.
It's giving
actually.
Betty Parsons. Wow, that was quite a story, Em. Now I'm going to tell you quite a story, and I got to be honest, as far as gossip goes, this one is probably the most gossip-heavy / batshit crazy story I've covered in ages.
I love when we both gossip.
My God, there's so much to talk about. This one, unfortunately, is all kind of sad, terrible gossip. But it's one of those stories that I really didn't know how to do this until Saoirse was like, I'm going to take it, like, go from this angle and tell it. And I was like, okay, perfect. Because it's so convoluted sometimes that it's like, how do you get all the plot points and plot twists in one thing. So Saoirse did a good job. This is part 1, and then there's going to be a part 2. So please buckle up because this is a bumpy ride. This is the story of Suzanne Sevakis. Here we go, friends. The date, September 12th, 1994, in Choctaw, Oklahoma. We start with 51-year-old Clarence Hughes. He walks into an elementary school called Indian Meridian Elementary School, and he pulls out a gun.
Oh, boy.
He approaches the principal, James Davis, and tells him he is there to pick up his son, 6-year-old Michael Anthony Hughes. He says to James, the principal, "I'm prepared to die, so if you don't take me to see my 6-year-old son, you can just die with me."
Oh, my God. So this immediately, I'm sensing a custody battle.
You are on top of things. Wow, look at you. How did you know that? Wink.
You know, divorce kids just kind of smell that kind of thing.
We have that sense. Yeah, talk about gossip. Yeah, we have that ability to sense it. Yeah, exactly right. So he says, if you don't give me my 6-year-old son, you can die right along with me. I don't care. I'm gonna. I'm not afraid to die. So this poor principal guy with no other choice, he's terrified for his life, but also all the kids in the building.
Yeah, what do you do in that situation?
What do you even do? Yeah, there's
like, is it right to give the gunman their kid,
one
but also
child
if you
in
say no,
exchange for the safety of everyone else? Yeah,
I was gonna say it's really like that train track
fucking
story.
trolley
Like,
problem. Yeah.
yeah, one person or 5.
Oh my gosh. So he basically does not know what to do, and he leads Clarence, this guy, to Michael's first grade classroom. So once Clarence has Michael, he not only takes Michael, he also takes the principal, James, into the parking lot at gunpoint.
Oh boy.
He forces both the principal and his son into his truck, and he drives off. And everyone else just kind of watched this unfold and went, oh shit, what just happened?
Thank God everyone saw, though. For a second, I was like, oh, no one's going to know. Everyone's going to think he just took like a principal lunch break. And
I mean, I think some people might have seen it, but nobody really knows what just happened. I don't know that anyone knew the extent of it at this point. Like, they
also,
just
it was
saw
94.
It's 94.
Not like anyone could,
no
it's
cameras.
not like you could text someone from the car.
Exactly. And if he was alone in the principal's office, nobody was there. I don't know. So no one had any clue where these guys were headed. And it wasn't until hours later that passersby found James, the principal, alone in the woods along a dirt road. He was alive, but he was handcuffed to a tree with duct tape over his mouth so that he couldn't call for help. Unfortunately, Clarence and 6-year-old Michael were long gone. So, with a population of fewer than 10,000 people, Choctaw was not used to violent crime, much less a, double kidnapping at gunpoint in broad daylight. The Choctaw authorities immediately involved the FBI, and according to the FBI, the majority of child abduction cases in the U.S. involve a family member as an abductor. So this is like a perfect example of that. I think a lot of times we see also that it's often custody related as well. So we have Clarence Hughes taking Michael, and that made sense for a minute until they realized Clarence Hughes was not Michael's real father.
No.
Dun, dun, dun. First plot twist. And there are so many.
I was going to say, did they go to the cops go to the kid's dad's work and he was just sitting there at his computer like, I didn't fucking do anything. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, no. So the way that we know Clarence was not actually the father is that it had actually recently been decided in court during a bitter custody battle between Clarence and the state. So Michael had been removed from Clarence's home 4 years prior following the death of Clarence's wife, or Michael's mother, Tanya Hughes. And after Tanya died, the state took Michael away from Clarence. And when he went to court to try and win Michael back, they did a DNA test and realized he was not technically the biological father.
That's so sad, though. I mean, so far, my understanding is this guy really loved the kid anyway, despite not having a blood connection to him. Is that what it sounds like?
Nope.
Okay. 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 Never mind.
Sorry.
It
Unfortunately.
sounded like maybe he was playing a fatherly role up until this point
He
and just wanted to have the relationship with the
he
kid. And
likened
okay.
himself to a father figure to this child. Nobody else really
Uh-oh.
did. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Uh-oh.
So he took this child, and then when they looked up who this guy was, they were like, "Shit, that's not even his quote unquote real father." Um,
Mm-hmm.
he was not in his custody. He was not related to him. Uh, People who knew Tanya at the time that she was killed, this is Michael's mother, and she had died 4 years earlier. People who knew Tanya and were friends with Tanya were very concerned about Clarence as a father and were like, if Tanya's dead, we do not feel good leaving Michael
Oh,
with
shit.
Clarence. So Michael, for that reason, was placed in the care of foster parents Ernest and their names are the best. Ernest and Merle Bean, Bean. I know.
Okay.
Think about it. Merle and Ernest Bean, like the wildest
I'm
couple
sorry.
names.
Scratching Fanny and her bean. Is that what?
No, no, stop. That's terrible.
Sorry. That's not what I. No, it is what I meant.
Don't
But
bring Ernest Bean into this, okay?
the little beans. Oh, it is nice.
Okay, so the Bean family, who, by the way, I looked them up. They have actually fostered over 80 children, more than 80 children in
Oh,
their
don't say that after I
time
made fun of their name.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying it. In their time, they are high school sweethearts, and they had 3 biological kids, and then ended up fostering more than 80 children.
Jesus, good for
Throughout the
them.
years. Yeah, pretty cool. So one of the kids that they fostered was Michael because friends and family raised concerns about Clarence raising the child, and so they removed him from the home, put him in foster care, and this was shortly after after Michael's second birthday. So this was in 1990. He was 2.
Okay.
Clarence, like I said, fought to get Michael back for 4 years, but Ernest and Merle were like, we don't think this is a good idea. Like, we'd rather keep him in our home. We think he's safer here. And that is because when Michael first came to their home, he was, shall we say, a bit troubled. You know, he's 2 years old. He's just had this very traumatic thing happen that he doesn't even understand yet, right? His mother is dead. His father is not trustworthy, and also he's been taken away from his home, and now he's with these strangers. But on top of that, he refused to drink anything but Pepsi out of his baby bottle.
Oh boy.
And it was really hard for Ernest and Merle to wean him off of that because caffeine, sugar, I mean, this is biologically already something he was kind of addicted to. He would experience extreme emotional dysregulation. If anyone told him no or he was upset, he would lie down and start banging his head on the floor to indicate he was upset. He was very dysregulated. His physical growth was delayed for his age. He rarely spoke, so developmentally he was a bit behind. And when he ever spoke, he talked about Clarence, his father, so to speak, at the time, as that mean man.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so Merle and Ernest are like, we are not sending you back to that mean man,
Yeah.
right? And he did have custody, or not custody, but visitations. And every time one of those visitations occurred, this poor kid, Michael, would just be distraught. He did not want to go near this man. He wanted nothing to do with him. And so Ernest and Merle were in that tough spot where they legally are required to let Clarence come see the kid, even though the kid is clearly disturbed by it and doesn't want to. And happily, being under this new couple's care, Michael made tremendous strides. They took away the caffeine, which really helped him health-wise. He began to settle into his new home, and he lived with the Beans for 4 years. And as he lived with them, he began to thrive. They had all these photos they were showing in the documentary. It was really beautiful. He just thrived as a happy and bright little kid. And thankfully, at one point in court, a paternity test revealed that Clarence was not Michael's biological father. And at that point, his whole court case became moot. His parental rights were permanently revoked, and Michael was set to stay with the Beans. Now, the weeks following that decision, the Beans were on high alert because they were trying to go through this arduous process of adopting Michael permanently. And one day, Merle is standing outside or on the porch or somewhere where she can see out to the front road, and she sees this car drive by really slowly, this truck. And she calls the Department of Human Services, DHS, and says, "What kind of car does Clarence drive?" And
Oh boy.
they told her, and she said, "Yeah, he's definitely lurking around our property. Like, something's up." And the caseworker said, "Hey, you're just being paranoid. Don't worry about it." But Merle insisted something was wrong, and nobody really listened to her. And they said, "Oh, things are fine. Just keep going with the adoption process." It was only days later that Clarence walked into Indian Meridian Elementary with a gun and abducted Michael. So that is now caught up to the present, where we are finding this principal handcuffed to a tree. We don't know where Michael is. We don't know where Clarence is, presumably with Michael. So FBI Special Agent Joe Fitzpatrick takes on this case, and he becomes a big player in this. He's featured heavily in the documentary on Netflix, which is called The Girl in the Picture, and it is a doozy of a documentary. It's almost 2 hours long. It is, it's like watching a fucking M. Night Shyamalan film. Like, you're like, what? Everything is fucking plot twist, upside down, like, I'm rewinding, like, did I hear that right? I mean, it is one of those stories. I cannot believe I didn't know more about this before. So anyway, FBI agent Joe Fitzpatrick, he takes the case, and as he's looking over what they knew about Clarence and Michael, he goes, uh-oh, we were all hoping that M's original suspicion was right, that maybe this guy just loves his kids so much that he went and picked him up. But as he's looking through all the records and looking into this Clarence guy, he gets a sinking feeling that Michael is in grave danger.
Uh-oh.
So Joe consults behavioral science experts who say, it's not great news, but you probably have about a week before Clarence, quote, gets tired of Michael and kills him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But as it turns out, Clarence was not even this man's real name. Turns out Clarence, I know, it's just like, I hope everyone can keep up here. It's just batshit. So Clarence was just an alias, and investigators discovered that this man had many aliases, but his original birth name was Franklin Delano Floyd. Likewise, what?
I don't know. I feel like I've heard that name before.
There was another Floyd. Oh, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Is that who you're thinking of? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Yeah, this one they pronounced Delano. And I know that, like, Franklin Delano
Roosevelt.
Yeah, I think that's right? FDR?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that it's very trippy because it's like Franklin Delano, not Franklin Delano. Anyway, that's how they pronounce it, at least. So I'm just going to go with that.
Okay.
But yes, he's not the esteemed former president. He is this motherfucker. So it turns out that's his real birth name. But this is not the first time he's used an alias, nor is it the first time he has abducted a child.
Okay.
Turns out that in 1962, and I just want to warn everyone, this case has probably every possible trigger / upsetting thing, aside from animal cruelty. I think that's the only thing that does not happen in this case.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's at least so far. Until part 2, I'll let you know. But so far, as far as I can tell, that's the only thing kind of missing from this story, which is terrible. So in 1962, he had been imprisoned for the kidnapping and rape of a 4-year-old girl. Yeah.
Oh.
And when he was sent to prison, he managed to escape, and he was not caught again until he was robbing a bank and was arrested for that. And he was imprisoned until 1972. It is still so shocking to me that someone who rapes a 4-year-old girl does not have to stay in prison for very long. But here we are.
Yep.
Franklin was arrested again just 1 year later for sexual assault. And a friend posted his bail, and Franklin skipped town before his court hearing. And he had been a federal fugitive ever since. And he had been living under assumed names, different aliases, including Clarence Hughes, which is the one he was using now, Trenton Davis, and Warren Marshall. So on top of all of his other crimes, investigators had begun to suspect that maybe he had something to do with the death of his wife 4 years earlier, Tanya Hughes. And this would have been the
boy.
mother of Michael, the little boy.
Okay.
So now we're jumping back in time to the time that Tanya was killed, which was April 1990. A few men were driving late at night in Oklahoma City when they pull over to investigate some debris along the side of the road. And it's there that they find the body of 20-year-old Tanya Hughes. She is barely alive, but she is technically alive. She's unconscious. She has seemingly been struck by a vehicle.
Oh. And the fact that they called it debris.
Yes,
they saw debris.
Yeah. It was almost like she was tossed there, like trash. It's very dark storyline. So they find 20-year-old Tanya. She seems to have been either struck by a vehicle or just gravely injured. She's admitted to the ICU, the intensive care unit, with an internal head injury, which was causing swelling in her brain. And when her husband arrived, this is Clarence, he told them that his name was Clarence Hughes and that Tanya was a dancer at a club in Tulsa. So Tanya's coworker and her best friend, Karen Parsley, visited Tanya in the ICU. And I know, are you laughing at Karen Parsley? All these names feel made up.
It feels like she's like the next door neighbor in VeggieTales.
Oh my God. And the fact that they're like exotic dancers makes it so much better. Like, I'm Karen Parsley, you know.
I was not trying to laugh. Sorry.
Here's a game. Your stripper name is your favorite VeggieTales character combined with the street you grew up on. Anyway, so Tanya's coworker and her best friend was named Karen Parsley, and Karen visited Tanya. By the way, I want to be clear. Tanya at this point was 20 years old when she was brought into the ICU.
Oh, wow.
She's very young.
Wow.
So her best friend Karen comes in, and conveniently, thankfully, Clarence was away at this point. He is not at the hospital. And when Karen talks to the nurses, they express concern that they felt like something was wrong with Clarence, with this situation, with Tanya's home life. The vibe is off. Clarence is really fishy. The injury she had didn't quite match to getting hit by a car. It just all seemed a little shady. And they said, you know, Clarence is significantly older than Tanya and he behaves very controlling and very strangely. And they didn't have any real evidence, but they did suspect that he somehow was involved in Tanya's accident. So this is more like the nurses are gossiping about this because they just have a bad feeling, but they don't know what to do about it. And
sure.
Karen hears this and she's like, yeah, I think you guys are right, because I'm not a big fan of Clarence. So Karen had met Tanya in 1989 at Passions, which is the club where they worked, and they were the youngest dancers there, so they really connected very quickly. They gravitated toward each other. Karen was a college student, and Tanya was an avid reader and was always reading about some new field or some new topic, and so the two of them became fast friends and just, I don't know, loved to spend time together. Karen also loved Tanya's little son, Michael, and she said he was a smiley, happy baby. He looked at Tanya with total adoration, and Tanya was the best mother, and Michael was her whole world. But there was a little problem, which is Clarence. Tanya would often show up to work with bruises all over her body, bad bruises, and Karen knew Michael was abusing her, but Tanya always denied it, and, you know, Karen, also being very young, felt helpless and did not know how to intervene.
Yeah.
And Tanya refused to leave Clarence because she knew she couldn't take Michael with her. Clarence would never let her take Michael, and Michael was never out of Clarence's sight. And so it basically made it impossible for her to find an escape route. And the way Karen described it is that Clarence kept baby Michael under lock and key. Like she one time offered, hey, why don't we take him to the zoo? And Tanya was like, no, that can't happen. Like, we can't take him anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Wow. Oof, okay.
So one day, Tanya confided in Karen that Clarence had recently taken out a large life insurance policy on her. And she was pretty convinced he was preparing to murder her, but she would not leave without Michael. So when Karen found out that Tanya was involved in a mysterious hit and run, she suspected probably Clarence was involved. But unfortunately, like the nurses, she didn't have any evidence. And so that's all she could do is just believe what she believed and wasn't able to prove it to anyone.
Which is so wild when, I mean, hopefully not a lot of people have to experience this, but when you're dating, when your friend is dating someone who is not good news, and you're just like, oh, I smell trouble and I just hope I'm wrong.
You hope you're wrong.
Please let me be
so
wrong.
Hope you're wrong. Yeah, 100%. That's what it was. And Tanya was so beloved at work. The dancers all loved her. They decided to make the arrangements for Tanya's funeral and gravestone because they felt like Clarence wasn't going to do anything to honor her memory. And so basically they got together, collected money amongst themselves. These are, the other dancers at the club, and they put up a gravestone. But they also decide they want to find Tanya's family. They want to tell her parents what has happened. They don't know who her mom is, but they want to find her and let her know. And they just felt like Clarence isn't going to tell her family that she's passed away. So they decided to find her mother. So to clarify, if it's not clear by now, Tanya had passed away from her injuries in the ICU.
Okay.
So she never regained consciousness, and she unfortunately passed away. And so because her friends were so devastated and did not believe that Clarence would reach out to her family, they decided they would track down her family for her. So Karen and the other woman do manage to track down Tanya's mother, and they call her to break this tragic news. And the mother says, "What are you talking about? My daughter, Tanya Hughes, died 20 years ago when she was only 18 months old."
What?
So it was then that Karen realized Tanya Hughes was not, in fact, Tanya Hughes.
What?
So Tanya's friends are at a complete loss. They're like, wait, so clearly this is a fake name, or she took this name from somewhere, and they didn't know what to do. So they put Tanya on her gravestone, and that they just left it at that. And then they wrote, "I'll always be with you." So while Tanya's friends made funeral arrangements, Clarence quickly tried to collect the payout from Tanya's life insurance policy, because of course he did. But the social security number he provided for himself was not for Clarence Hughes. It belonged to, as we know now, Franklin Floyd. Meanwhile, hospital staff had come to Karen with concerns about Michael, saying, "Hey, we've seen her son Michael a few times, and he's not speaking. He's nonverbal. He's extremely withdrawn. He's very disturbed." And Karen said, "Oh, no, that's not the Michael I know. Michael's usually very bubbly, very happy, very talkative. And this is a complete change in behavior for him." So the hospital recommends that he's taken away from Clarence's care, thankfully. So he's removed from, I guess, Franklin's care. And that is where this 4-year custody battle began, where he moves to the Beans, and then there's this whole rigmarole, and Clarence isn't technically his father, and then he goes and abducts him from the elementary school. So that's where we are now. This abduction of Michael was national news in 1994. There were photos of Michael and Tanya in newspapers, magazines, primetime TV, everywhere. This was huge news. And Franklin, as police now knew, was an experienced and skilled fugitive. He's used to being on the run. It'll be tough to catch up to him. He's armed, he's dangerous, and he's hurt people before, so he is not going to be easy to find. So investigators hope that if enough people saw pictures of Michael on TV and magazines, that maybe they would be able to spot him out in public wherever he was.
Yeah.
But instead, the FBI received a call about someone recognizing Tanya on TV. A woman named Jenny Fisher calls the FBI, totally out of sorts, and says, "I don't know who Tanya Hughes is, but the woman in the photo on the news, Michael's mother, is my high school best friend, Sharon Warren." And
oh my God.
Police are like, "What?" So now we know that this is not Tanya, like her friends sort of got the hint
Figured
that
out,
this is not Tanya. But now they have a totally new name, Sharon Warren. And Jenny says, yeah, we went to school together in Forest Park, Georgia, and Jenny and Sharon met at student council camp in 1984. She said Sharon was extremely smart. She was in the gifted program, student council, ROTC, and science club. Her dream,
Damn.
yeah, let's get this. Her dream was to become an aerospace engineer. That's what
Oh
she
my God.
aspired to. She was also very beautiful. You know, she said that the day she walked into high school, everybody kind of did the turn, like, who's that? You know,
Mm.
she was very popular. But Sharon's friends said she always went for the underdogs. And so her friend group, which I think is so sweet, were all the outcasts, like anybody
Oh, that's
gay,
fun.
anybody who, you know, openly gay, anybody who felt like kind of different or looked different. She had this kind of ragtag group of friends, and a lot of them were interviewed for the documentary. I thought it was really sweet. But yeah, so she kind of hung with those people instead. According to Jenny, they were the outcasts, and Sharon was this sort of light who came into their lives and always made them feel seen and understood and loved. She gave a lot of support to these folks, and then later, when they kind of found out more about her, it was extra heartbreaking because it was like she was not getting that love and support for herself, but she was giving it to all her friends. So she was just
Right.
one of those people that really touched people's lives. Her friend Lynn Renee Thornton said that she was what made his years in high school good. He said people would call him the F slur and like all these things. And he said she would write him notes and like just was always there to spend time with him, hang out with him, never made him feel different. But Sharon herself struggled outside of school. She lived alone with her father, Warren, and friends thought her father was very weird and strict and strange. And she grew up in this like very strict household where if her friend Jenny, for example, wanted to call, she would say, "You have to schedule your calls to me. You
Yuck.
can't call me when my father's home. Either I call you or we have to schedule it." She was also
Yikes.
very big yikes. She was also responsible for cooking him dinner every single night. And
Ugh.
yeah, when she hung out with friends, he would come and meet the parents of the friends. And for example, when he first met Jenny's family, he went right up to the parents and asked for a loan.
Oh.
Like he's
Whoa.
just one of those guys. And the parents were like, "You are not allowed to hang out with this family anymore. Like she can come
Yeah.
here, but like you're not going to their house." So Jenny's father was like, "This guy's trouble." But one night when her father was out of town, Jenny convinced her mother to let her go to Sharon's house and spend the night for a sleepover.
Okay.
This part's rough, folks. So that night, while Jenny and Sharon are changing into their pajamas, they're probably 15, I don't know, in high school. Warren, her father, Sharon's father, barges into the room with a gun, points it at both girls. He says, "What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?" They're like, "We're having a sleepover." He says, he kind of chuckles and he says, "I'll be right back."
No, you won't.
And
You.
Sharon turns to Jenny and kind of laughs and says, "Oh, this is just daddy. He's just weird like this. Like, he's just joking around. He's just being silly." And unfortunately, Warren does come back. And he tells Jenny to lay down on the ground and put a pillow over her head. He then rapes Sharon in front of Jenny, and they just do not speak. They just go to bed. He's still holding this gun. And in the morning, Sharon just gives Jenny a hug and said, "Daddy's just like that. I'm okay. You're okay. Just let it go." And asked her not to speak about it. So Jenny is fucking terrified, traumatized, does not know what to do. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. She just didn't know how to even process it. And she later said in an interview, "It was the most painful thing in my life. It changed how I viewed the world. It changed everything about me."
Yeah. Your entire, I feel like your brain chemistry is
Especially as a child,
fucked
you
after
know.
that. Oh my God.
So in 1986, Sharon receives a full ride scholarship to Georgia Tech. This is her dream school. She got into the aerospace engineer department with a full ride. This is like
Wow.
ultimate top dream for her. She was over the moon ecstatic, and her friends were thrilled. Her father even took out an ad in the school yearbook and put like a full page saying, you know, Georgia Tech, here I come on a full ride, like to show off. The one thing
Mm-hmm.
that her friends thought was a little strange is most parents use baby photos in these kind of ads, and he picked kind of a sultry, like almost sexy photo of her.
Mm.
And so all the other kids felt a little bit off put by that, but Sharon didn't care at all. She was just so ecstatic that she would be going to her dream school to study her dream field. But one day, Jenny gets a call, and Sharon is in absolute hysterics and tells her, I'm pregnant. The father was her high school boyfriend, and Sharon's father, when he finds this out, is absolutely beside himself furious and tells her, you're not going to college anymore. You're not going.
Wow.
And her friend said, you have to go. This is like your only giant dream in life. Like, this is your way out. And she said, I can't. Someone has to take care of daddy, and it's me. I'm going to stay here and do that. She tells her friends she's moving to Arizona, giving up on Georgia Tech. She's moving to Arizona, and she's going to have her baby there and put it up for adoption because she was not allowed to keep it. So
Whoa.
Sharon and Warren pack up and leave town, and Jenny never saw her best friend again until she's watching the news years later and says, I don't know who Tanya is. That's Sharon, my best friend.
Wow.
So Jenny sits down with the FBI in 1994 after recognizing her picture on TV. And investigators say, okay, here's a picture of Sharon with her husband, Franklin, or some people know him as Clarence. And Jenny looks at the photo and says, that's not Sharon's husband. That's Sharon's father.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry,
my
I'm
God.
smiling. I just never get to get the full gasp out of M. So it's very fulfilling feeling to shock you in that way. Is that not? You should have heard last night watching this, waking Blaze up, going, "What the fuck?" every 5 seconds.
That's so. I mean, sick. I mean, like I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I have a secret. It gets even wilder. It seems like it
How?
can't, but it does.
How?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God. Whoa. I'm sorry.
I know. It's
my brain is
shocking. It's like short circuits your brain. It's like, what? So Jenny's like, that's who I know as Sharon's father. And they say, no, this is her husband. And poor Kano
And she goes, yeah, exactly. She goes, I've got stories that prove that Por qué no los dos.
Yes, precisely. So it is her father and her husband. So they discover, the FBI quickly discovers that Sharon and Franklin had changed their names in 1989, a year before Sharon's death. And what they did was they took Tanya and Clarence from tombstones in Alabama. And that's why she had found the grave of that baby, that 18-month-old baby that the woman had lost, and just took that name. So it wasn't even like she had taken that name on as her own from a gravestone.
Right.
So they got married under these false names in New Orleans. And from then on, everyone who met them knew them as Clarence and Tanya Hughes, not father and daughter, but husband and wife. So now investigators know who Sharon was before she became Tanya, but there are still major pieces, of course, missing to the story. Like, okay, well then where were Franklin and Sharon between the time they left Georgia while Sharon was pregnant and arrived in Tulsa? Because Michael was her second child. Michael was not the child she was pregnant with. The timeline did not add up. So Michael was her second child who was only 2 years old at this point. But the first child she had been pregnant with must be somewhere else because the child was not living with them.
Sure.
So now they're thinking, shit, where's the other child? Did they really go to Arizona to give the baby up for adoption like Sharon had told her friends? And Special Agent Joe said that the best way to predict what a fugitive will do next is to look at what they've done before, because humans are creatures of habit. They will repeat their behaviors and patterns. And he decided if he could understand Franklin's behavior and patterns and talk to people who knew Sharon and Franklin during those missing years, he would have a better chance of finding Franklin and, of course, little Michael before it was too late. But we'll have to find out in part 2.
Girl, no, please don't do that to me.
I'm sorry. It has to be this way.
Christine, that was...
Is that not the wildest ride you've ever been on? I mean, what is
I mean,
wrong
it's
with
the
people?
sickest ride.
It's
like
so
I don't want
fucked
people
up.
to think that my nervous smiling is me
We're not-
giddy for this information.
It's shocking.
Sometimes I don't think anything could blow my mind, and then you say something like that whole story, and I go, "Oh my god, wow,
Exactly.
that's insane."
Especially because we've covered hundreds of cases, so it's like at this point, you'd think you've heard it all, or like you'd think nothing can surprise you anymore. But then, yeah,
Wow.
it's a doozy.
If I were an alcohol drinker, I would be pouring myself a stiff one right now.
Yeah, and you deserve it.
Oh, I have found people. I'm going off of previous comments from previous moments like this, but I have a new fun little recipe for people to try. Speaking of drinks, I found a mocktail, which I feel like that's a nicer way to end this than this horrible mystery you've let us hang on.
Wait, I love that. Yeah, we can do a new ending bit.
Well, I don't know if I'll have one every time, but I've been drinking this one for the last couple of weeks now, and I'm a big fan. So if you need a fun summer mocktail, because I was telling everyone everything is like half lime and lemon juice, and that's like, and then that like fake alcohol that people put in, because I think that's what I want in a mocktail is like, no. So here's what you do. You're going to go to Trader Joe's. If you don't have a Trader Joe's near you, I don't know.
Sucks for you.
But if you have a Trader Joe's near you,
God,
they are currently selling, I guess because it's summer, a watermelon soda, which is literally, oh my god.
M's thumbs down emoji just popped up. No, I love that. It's really good. I just bought that recently too.
It's a watermelon soda. It's literally just like blended watermelon with seltzer in it.
So good. It's like sparkling watermelon.
Yeah, watermelon juice. And so you get that. They have, and then also what Allison does, because she just happens to have it in her own collection at this point, some cucumber bitters. And then on top of that, Trader Joe's has this other thing. It's at the end. It's by the checkout area where they have like those stacks of juices on the wall. They have a drink. I know I'm eating my own words here, but I will say there's very minimal lime in it, because I know I was saying I hate lime. It doesn't really taste like lime. I'm more in it for the fact that it's jalapeno lime juice, and it just gives a spice to it. I don't really taste any lime to it. If anything, I just taste jalapeno. But it's like a spicy watermelon cucumber situation.
Wait, that sounds so good. And then like you can always add vodka to it if you're in a drinking mood. Yeah, that sounds delicious.
It's with a little wedge of watermelon. Are you kidding me?
How many parts are we talking? We're talking, you mix them in half and half?
I'm imagining it's mainly water. I'm very spoiled, and Allison makes it for me because she's the bartender between the two of us. I'm imagining it's mainly the soda, and then maybe like a third jalapeno lime juice, and then however many cucumber bitters you want. But yeah, it's very yummy. It's very summery.
I gotta find cucumber bitters. I don't even know where to find that. It sounds delicious.
I think I'm slowly. Every time I like pass like a gourmet alcohol store, they always have like fun flavors for bitters, and I think I'm slowly buying every flavor.
Oh,
for
you
Allison,
are. That's fun.
But anyway, people seem to really like that salami and cheese pepper thing I got from Trader Joe's last time, and we were there literally to buy that, and then we saw this jalapeno lime juice, and I was like, I bet we could come up with something for that.
That sounds delicious.
If anyone, they also pair very well together. If you would like to have your little pepper situation.
Oh my god, they've got celery bitters on this website.
I think I've said this before, but celery soda. Have I told you about celery soda?
Maybe. I don't think so.
It's a Dr. Brown's soda, but it's actually spelled on the soda balls celery. I don't know why, but it's celery soda.
Oh.
And I guess back in the 40s, there was, I guess they were low on celery or something. I don't know. But at Jewish delis, they started selling celery soda with your sandwich, so that way you would get like a bite of celery with your sandwich without them having to serve you celery.
That's so fun.
It actually tastes like celery. It's really not actually that bad of a soda.
It sounds kind of
good. Not that bad. Anyway, fun fact for you.
Wow, that was great. Thank you for pulling us out of the darkness. That was nice.
I love it.
It's like our very own After Dark, which we're
Which you
also
can go
gonna do.
listen to. Which, if you're a member of Patreon, you can now follow us over there, and we will continue to talk about things probably like celery soda
I do
and
have
my
some,
favorite
like,
watermelon drinks.
Ghost. Well, actually, I have some. I feel like we're trying to make the After Dark more similar
Dark.
to the podcast because I feel like people. I don't know. We wanted it to be something people would be like, "Ooh, I'm so curious." So I think I might tell. I don't know. I have some ghostly updates that I might tell on Patreon.
Fun.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to hear those updates, you can feel free to head over to patreon.com/ATWWD podcast.
Wee! And
That's
why?
we
Drink.
clink.